Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast. We have already covered 3 games so far, and we're on to our final game for our stream this morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. We just saw Burning Core versus Crest Gaming, and wow, what a set, what a game between it. So back and forth, so many odds, clips. I've got multiple clips. It's just what a game to watch. But our final game for the day, and I think that's more important to talk about, is Sengoku Gaming versus Crest Gaming Act. These teams are currently 1-0 for this week, so this is the defining factor of, are they going to go 1-1 again? And they're going to be that team that keeps going 1-1, or are they going to be the team that turns it around and starts going 2-0? Gentlemen, Nymera, Initialize, please. What are your thoughts going into this final game?
Well, I think Sengoku drafted much better in their last game than yesterday, but my problem is, even with a strong draft, objective lead and gold lead, they still somehow managed to almost throw the game that they had pretty much in the bag. Actually, I think Apperman was an absolute hero on the Yorick. Yutori Miyashi once again pulling out a really nice MF performance, but I still can see the jitters, the cracks in the armor there. So I think that CGA will have some avenues of attack to go through if they do draft well against them.
Yeah, and let's talk spirit. Like, Arya and Gango had an absolute world-ending performance in that last game. That Draven, that LeBlanc were titans. They were crushing everyone that were coming across. And it'll be interesting seeing how they match up against Pyrian and Yutori Miyashi. I think Yutori Miyashi is a very good AD carry. He's brilliant. So I think that bot lane might be a little bit more even, potentially. Mid lane, we'll see. Do we get game 1 Pyrian from the last time we cast this, or game 2? If we get game 2 Pyrian, it might be a bit different. On the other side, I think we've got Blank in the jungle, who probably have a slight advantage over Yoshi, who
had a hard game.
one or two slightly syndrome moments. But he was, in the end, it didn't matter because his bot and mid lane were so strong.
Yeah.
Agreed. Now, final game for us of the day, so I'm going to keep doing it. Which lane or role is going to have the biggest impact? I want you, Initialize, to start us off first, if you're able to. He's not paying attention to me. It doesn't.
I apologise. My internet connection has died on me, so I can't actually hear what's going on. So I'll be rejoining you in just a second.
Totally gone.
Because
you go ahead, Nymera.
No. He's not weaseling his way out of this, Sam. Which lane do you think is going to be the most impactful in this game, do you think?
I suspect the most volatile will be the bot lane. We've seen both laners, like we saw the Draven massive ego pick in the bot side. We saw Yutori Miyashi with the misfortune the one before do really well there as well. So I think it'll be a bot lane volatility that'll be
that is a hell of a bot lane. That is Sengoku's bot lane of Yutori Miyashi and NT versus Grendel and Nihon. So it's going to be a very competitive. That is definitely some of the top, in my opinion, of the better LJL bot lanes there.
Yeah, I think these are 2 of the bot lanes which have... Well, I think DFM obviously have a really impressive bot lane.
Obviously.
I feel like...
Well, these are and they're the only 3 bot lanes that have really fully performed, because we've been able to see enough games from them. And
Rascal Jester obviously took a game off of Crest.
Ooh, that was very true, yeah.
In day 1 as well. So Art and Vivid were obviously key to that. So yeah, I think that we have Youthpod and Gang, and then there's definitely those guys performing really well, and then you have a lot of people kind of vying for the second kind of best bot lane right there. I have been impressed by Yutori Miyashi. I think he's been team fighting really well. He has occasionally been picked off with a bit of his positioning, so we'll have to see whether Arya picks up a champion which can definitely abuse that. I think if Arya gets a LeBlanc again, Sengoku just throw in the towel at that point. He played so well last game on that.
Yeah, and another thing that might be worth keeping an eye on, of course, is that if Nap is wanting to continue to pick this
damn you! I wanted to pick the top lane.
Go, man!
So I wanted to pick again. I'm all about tenure. If you play your time, you do your respects. You deserve respect back. Apperman and Nap are some of the longest time players of this league. Nap, again, such a long-term player of this league. He's been playing on Rascal Jesters and Crest for so long. But tenure, right?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, these are players that have played countless games against each other, and I personally would love to see it. I mean, they at one point, I believe, actually played on the same team when Nap.
Really now?
Yes, when Nap came over to Rascal Jester and as their top laner. This was when Apperman was playing mid or jungle. So I think this might be this is why I really want to go for it. Oh, yes, top lane.
Okay, cool.
I think there's also something to be said for that if Nap wants to keep picking this set, Apperman has already pulled out Yorick to great success versus that.
Very true.
And while Ray Farkey went for the Darius, which is obviously his pocket pick, and that didn't work out quite so well. If Apperman is willing to pick a Yorick and they go for another 4-1 comp, I do see potentially Nap struggling versus that if they do want to continue drafting that.
It definitely will make it very difficult. Alex, initialize. Oh no, Nymara. God. Names.
I know we're brothers, but we're not that similar.
Who's your pick? What's your pick?
To me, it's hard to pick an individual player because I think Sengoku is all. No. For me, it's more about the draft really because actually, and it's hard to say, right? Because I feel like Sengoku have some very, very talented players. I think we've seen Blank's Kiana was really good. We saw that Pyrian has had some interesting games as well. Yuto Miyashi has been the stalwart, the guy who's kept tight team fighting. Afman obviously had that Yorick performance as well.
Okay.
If I had to give it to a player, it's probably Yuto Miyashi just to see if he can, keep up that consistency as well. But for me, Sengoku, they need to overcome their self-imposed hamstrings from draft.
So I'm trying to figure out. I think you've picked Sengoku to win, but I'm not sure.
I'm gonna give it to Crest. I think Sengoku are just a little bit. No, I think that Sengoku have some great talent, and I think as the split goes on, as they find their comfort picks and their comfort compositions, they'll be forced to contend with. I just think for the time being, they're just flailing a little bit in terms of drafting off Engage, knowing their win conditions, and knowing how to fight around very important objectives. We saw in the last game, like I was saying. Blank got picked off and died in the mid lane and 2 times before dragons spawned, which were very important in that game.
Sam, go ahead.
I will probably back Sengoku to win this one. A little bit tentatively, I grant you, because I think Crest Gaming just came off an amazing first game there. But I think Apperman in the top side will limit Nap's options, and I think that's going to be a big deal. I also don't expect people to end up being... I don't expect things to be going in terms of like the snowball that occurred. I don't expect that to be happening as hard or as easily for those solo lanes. And I reckon probably Yuto Miyashi will give a slightly better accounting of versus Gango than we saw in the last game.
I hope so.
Absolutely. Well... With that in mind, I'm going to also back Sengoku. I'm not going to go too in-depth about it, but I'm just going to back Sengoku. It's got Apperman, and it's got Yutori Moriyashi, so I'm like... Oh, wait, no, Yutori Murashi. There we go. I think I got it the second time.
You know what? It's the effort which counts. We know the player you're talking about.
I just really like these two on the same team, and I'm going to back Sengoku on this. We're going to go 2 for 1 for Sengoku versus Crest over here on the analyst text, but that's enough... Hypothesizing. Yeah, that's the word. Talky, hardy. I'm not so smarty. While I break my analysts and my casters.
Just do the damn countdown.
Okay. All right, let's go into it in 3, 2, 1. Good luck to both teams, and hope my casters don't die.
Oh, me too.
Thank you for that wonderful little bit of blessing at the end there. We should be fine. I'm looking forward to this. We're coming into the Champs League. Let's run down some of these team rosters. Over for CGA, we've got Nap, Yoshi, Arya, Gango, and Grendel.
And then Sengoku on the red side, Apperman in the top lane, Blank in the jungle, Pyrian in the mid, Yutori Miyashi as the bot laner, and Enti as support.
And we've run through a few bans already. Syndra, Soraka, Akali, all off the table, and Elise just dropped as well. We're not saying much Elise get through for very good reason.
Yeah, Elise just wrecks the early game too much. We keep talking about these permanent bans, so we'll eventually start phasing that out and hope that you guys just watch the earlier VODs so we don't have to explain it. Yeah, so a lot of these are either flex picks or just very very strong blind picks into their lanes. And the Aphelios rounding out the bans. We'll see if it's going to be a set first pick, as it has so often been in the LJL, and it is.
All right, will Apperman immediately respond with the Yorick? Of course, got to remember, set is still quite flexible, could end up being shifted to the mid lane, but that means putting Arya on that, and that might not be something that they want to do if they wanted to give Crest Gaming, or if Crest Gaming want to give their mid laner that agency and damage and output they want from him. They're hovering Misfortune are Sengoku Gaming, and they do lock it in. Utoman actually had a very good last game on that. Go on, Blank. Pick me the Nidalee.
Oh, he was an old school Nidalee player back in season 6, season 7. Yeah, that would have been the time when he started playing that, if I remember correctly. But yeah, just a hover for now. Very interesting jungle pick there. There are a couple of hard farming junglers still in the meta, and the likes of Talia, Olaf, and Karthus. Haven't been seeing too many of any of them, though, over in the LJL so far.
No, but the LeBlanc is locked in.
Okay, so that's a takeaway from Arya, and Pyrion has looked pretty okay on that pick as well. They did win with the pick earlier in the day. Won with both these picks, in fact.
Yes, and we're seeing a little bit of a hover of something like a Kha'Zix, which would be very aggressive. I doubt it, though. Instead, it is, in fact, the Lee Sin. Much more normal. See if you can avoid the Syndrome this time.
Yeah, I think he's looking to redeem himself. The last game, he got killed very early into the game, got killed at level 3. And also dived a couple of times. And it's the Senna picked up. Actually, I think, yeah. So this is the first Senna we've seen today. No, the second one, I believe.
Yeah. So the first one didn't go quite so well. There were some good routes towards the end of it. But Gango, actually, in his first time out on the Senna, alongside Arya Zoe, was pretty terrifying versus Ramonet and Tussle's SoftBank Hawks. But we'll see how this goes out this time around.
Yeah, so Gango already impressed us, like we said, on his first game in day 1. And it is actually going to be the Rek'Sai locked in for Pyrion just before the second round of bans. You would have imagined it probably would have been a lot of junglers being banned out if he hadn't picked that.
And of course, we saw a great performance from Boogie earlier on Rek'Sai. We'll see whether Blank can imitate that here. And we're looking at Zoe ban as well. Don't want to give Arya that. The Senna Zoe combo is a lot of poke.
Yeah, also Zoe has become increasingly a better matchup into LeBlanc as players get more familiar with the Zoe and the LeBlanc matchup. I think that, so we see the Leona banned away from the Misfortune, as we've been talking about. Really strong combo with that pick. I think that we should probably see it. I'd like to see a Tahm Kench ban. It's a very good lane with the Senna, but it might also be something like the Nautilus as well for a bit more engaged option.
I've also got to remember, of course, Sengoku Gaming do have the first pick, so they may not want to ban the Nautilus because they may want to go for that first and leave the counter pick available for Apperman, probably, who has shown a propensity for picking some unusual champs at the top line.
Yeah, and
Lissandra banned.
Yeah, speaking about slightly more unlikely bans, this is like what I could like to call a flavor ban or a flavor pick. You know, something which is more unique to the situation at hand. Lissandra is a known kind of soft hard counter to the LeBlanc, allows you to W and root the LeBlanc in place as she dives in for that distortion trade. And it's actually the Yorick ban, as you were laughing about there, against Apperman. That is definitely a target ban. No one else is going to be playing there. And as we were saying, maybe Sengoku didn't want to ban the Nautilus so they could pick it themselves. And they do lock it in, leaving only a solo lane pick left to pick.
And of course, Apperman, as we said, has been more than willing to pick up a Yorick. There's still things like the Fiora available if he really wants to go into it. There's a Camille on the table. All of these things could be a lot of fun. Thinking about a Pike Yumi, I doubt it, but it would be a lot of fun.
So NC is actually pretty good at the Pike himself. It might just be a bit of teasing there, but it has been hard, and I think it probably should be the Tahm Kench. It's really good with the Senna. Senna already has, you know, some pseudo-engaged catch options with the root that she has on her W. It means that you don't necessarily need the same amount of CC from the Tahm Kench. And actually, Tahm Kench does a decent amount of damage himself. They're hovering the Vladimir, though, as this last pick. It is locked in. So
flex is complete there.
Yeah, so CGA are really looking for quite a good scaling mid into late game team fighting team alongside with the set for disruption, the Vladimir for backline dive, and the Senna for the back to front team fighting. Well, the front to back team fighting.
If they lock in Gangplank here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember Vladimir being quite good into the GP.
Only if you're the shy.
Only if you're the shy. Well, that might be like the KO. Ooh. Okay, that is a very... We've seen a few KO picks here over in the LJL. We've been a bit skeptical. We think it takes a little too long to come online, and actually, she's just not in a particularly strong point without Klepto at the minute, but it is going to be the KO set matchup one more time.
Yeah, so... this Vladimir was probably going to go mid. I guess maybe the reason they didn't go for the GP is because they thought that the Vladimir could be put up into the top lane to have a decent matchup into the Gangplank, as we said, able to dive that pick if it does get suitably far ahead. And with the Lee Sin, you can gank top lane pretty well. As it stands, we do have the scaling pick of the Kayle in the top lane from Apperman. A very different pick once again, another unique pick for the Sengoku top laner.
Yep, and of course he did have a fantastic performance on the Yorick. Definitely knows what he's doing in terms of pushing a lead, pushing a split in that side lane. And we'll see, we have seen Kayle's kind of start a split push and then kind of peel off slightly awkwardly. So we'll see whether Apperman can utilize this pick a little better. I'm still a bit nervous about it. I mean, I'd like to see it succeed, but...
Yeah, so I think that, so as we run down these team compositions, I feel like when we come into the earlier phases of this game, obviously it does favor CGA because Kayle does take a little while to come online, but there you do have the Nautilus as well, being able to pick people off alongside LeBlanc and Rek'Sai's very good single target damage, and then when we get into the slightly larger team fights, the bullet time from Misfortune, being able to keep Lee Sin, Senna, and all the rest of their backup dancers accountable.
Yeah, and it is going to be a question in the later game between Kayle and Vladimir and who skills hardest and fastest. But until that point, I'm looking forward to seeing what Pyrion and Blank can get done roaming around on the LeBlanc and the Rek'Sai. But that's not to say that Yoshi has nothing to say on this Lee Sin.
Yeah, but once again, Sengoku, as we've seen a little bit in the previous drafts they are lacking a bit of engage. They have the Nautilus with the Depth Charge and the Dredge line, but beyond that, because the Tahm Kench can kind of swallow up the first target, which is targeted by that, I am a little bit worried for Sengoku in terms of their larger engage options, besides just trying to eke out fights in 1-3-1 situations, because they do have 2 teleports on their team, as the LeBlanc has picked that up in the mid lane.
Yes, I suppose, but they do have some ways to get in behind people. LeBlanc has some distortions. Blank can tunnel in behind places. So maybe they just have to find some creative flanks. We'll have to find out. As we get into the rifts, we're looking at another 5-man fight. Oh, he has. He hasn't.
Yoshi has picked the SKT Lee Sin skin. Obviously, that's a skin for Bengi, the Season 3 World Championship, but just a little bit of a bit of fun poking there from the CGA jungler.
Yep, definitely seeing that. I appreciate a little bit of skin BM.
Don't we all?
We'll see how this goes. I quite like that Lee Sin skin, in fairness. I'm aware that, it's one of the older skins, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a bit of styling with those glasses.
I'm more of a Muay Thai Godfist Lee Sin fan myself.
Acolyte's the one I like. I like the hood. It's really cool.
Yeah, see, I think Diamond used to play a fair bit of that back in the day, Diamond Crocs. I'm trying to remember if that was his famous
Was
skin.
it Amazing who used to play a bit of that one too?
Yeah, I think everyone did, to be honest.
But we'll see how this goes. Because the lanes start off pretty even trading just around these minions. Blank starting up on this red side. Lee Sin starting on the his red side too.
Yeah, and one thing that Blank's Rek'Sai showed in the game that they did lose, that he does have a good way of pathing to keep up in farm. Doesn't necessarily impact the lanes the way that other Rek'Sais do. As Apperman does eat a couple of left and right hooks there.
He does, and of course you've got to be a bit careful because this Lee Sin has path top, and KO getting shut down early would not be the best thing here. So we'll see what's going on. Has got biscuits, has got corrupting pots, but we're seeing a little bit more trading happening in the spotlight side again.
Yeah, and the worry I have for Sengoku is that actually it's very hard to displace the Vladimir from a side lane once he gets there. Even though, we do see a bit of posturing on the top side. Yoshi walking into lane but not finding anything. Nap only just leveling up to level 2 there to get that face breaker available to pull back that Kayle.
Yeah, tried to knuckle down into distance, but didn't knuckle down hard enough. Needed to study a little bit more if that's the right idea, but it's the way things are. Blank, instead, having spotted Lee Sin topside, is going to go for a Raptor invade.
Yeah, so you see the Lee Sin topside, wastes a bit of time. Blank puts down the ward, just knows that he can take that camp pretty free. He's already a camp ahead in terms of this Lee Sin, and will be able to steal one away. Lee Sin, no real counter jungle options available. We'll be able to go for the top scuttle, though, after these wolves, you have to imagine.
Indeed, that's a lot of damage down onto Arya, but he is level 3, and of course he is a Vladimir, so has the pool available.
And Pyrion is also out of mana and doesn't have an ignite, so the real kill pressure on this Vladimir isn't really there if Arya plays respectfully.
Indeed, I mean there is still of course the corrupting pot, so it has to be a touch careful, grant you. But yes, this Vladimir is still pretty safe, and of course the sustain is something Vladimir is well known for. Another electrocute proc does come through, just keeping Arya away from this wave.
Yeah, and these are very standard rooms across the board where you see the fleet footwork coming out of the Kayle, just allowing you a little bit more of that kiting potential, which we talked about a fair bit on previous broadcasts. As we see Yoshi just looking towards this top lane again, and perhaps even a dive, because
there is a big wave here.
Good job chunking out this Kayle beforehand. Oh,
Right, here we go. They're here. It's going to be a teleport in there, and it's going to force them away. This KO is kept safe. Now at level 4, Pyrian here has no mana. Is going to back, but the wave is pushed in mid, so won't lose anything per se. Just has to back away. But this KO is kept alive.
Yeah, the Cal's kept alive, only at a 5 CS differential, but hasn't really missed any XP either. We see Blank tunneling into the bot lane, but actually deciding to just peel off of that at the very last second.
Yeah, the Curse of the Black Mist keeps CGA's bot lane safe. But for the moment, it's a slight CS lead for this Misfortune, who has got a fair wave to pick up here as well.
Yeah, so Blank just recalled that. But actually, this wave was pushing in pretty hard for CGA. A lot of extra caster minions on their side of the lane, which means that this could actually end up being frozen out and being able to deny, perhaps, Gango a few CS.
And NT's hiding away in this bush. We've seen a few Nautiluses do this. Really manipulate where the AD carry and support can stand from the other side.
Yeah, and what it means is that if you have your hook champion stood in the brush, forcing the AD carry to stand closer to the river, means that the jungler does have a bit less distance to travel to get on top of them. So that's probably what they were hoping for when Blank came down, but didn't end up leading to anything as a root lands onto Utility Mesh. Just a bit annoying.
Shadow's Embrace? Is it Spirit's Embrace or Shadow's Embrace?
You know what? I've got no idea, dude.
I'll go find that one out. You keep talking.
You know, I just play the guys. I don't know anything about the titles or anything. Yoshi spotted out an award as he goes through the tri-brush. It's an Infernal Dragon first spawn. And one thing that we can definitely notice is that once again, Yoshi not being is being out-leveled by his jungle opponent. I think that's largely due to the good pathing of his jungle opponents, though.
Irritatingly, it's neither. It's Last Embrace.
Last Embrace, oh.
There we go. Yep. Cool. It's the Curse of the Black Mist.
Well, that's your homework then.
It was. I thought I had it down, but I kept because she's attached to all these the Shadow Isles and all the spirits. It's like no, it's actually just Last Embrace, which makes a lot of sense.
One of the things about Quickshot when he first became a caster, is that the way he got into casting was knowing all the names of the abilities. Good trade by Pyrian.
I was pretty close. I'll take that. But anyway, could you see a bit of damage? But of course, Arya hasn't burnt the pool, so Blank's not going to be able to get anything there.
Pyrian's actually pretty low there as well, and he's using a lot of his mana in these early trades. Has the Dark Seal and the Mana Crystal, both of which give him a little bit extra mana to play around with, but really not getting the damage to stick onto this Vladimir, not getting him away from the minions. They're able to keep transfusing himself with a bit of HP.
Kale has now hit level 6 though, so has got that range. You can start to take control of this lane a little bit more, so feeling a little bit less safer and shouldn't be in the same diveable position she was quite so easily earlier.
Yeah, so I think what we're looking for, I mean, I don't think either of these teams particularly want to make too many early plays. I think maybe Sengoku can look to make some early mid lane plays, but as we've said, Arya has managed to keep himself in lane pretty well. Yoshi actually looking to start up this Infernal Drake, but Blank is on the same side of the map. Pyrian does have lane advantage as well.
NT's here. Pyrian's got enough mana to be useful. Here comes a TP. Blank's going to be on top of it, but here we go. That's Naba's got a nice suplex. Blank flashed up the wall, but it's into Grendel. He's gonna use the tunnel to keep going. But no, he's out. That's that. But it means this Infernal Drake is now clean and easy pickings for the side of CGA.
Okay, so Vladimir actually just used his ultimate in a short little skirmish with Pyrian, and then teleports up to the top wave just to collect that CS. Knows that the dragon will be taken either way, and the mid lane teleport more often used to catch these waves and make sure that they're staying relevant in CS and XP, not being able to clear up the dregs of this kind of wave in mid lane too.
Yeah, so it doesn't lose out too much on CS. And Vladimir, of course, as you said, has gone top. So no waves lost, just a swift switch of the solo laners.
Yeah, and what this means is that actually pretty much everyone besides the jungle, every matchup is relatively even in the gold, which means that although the 3-4 camped advantage for Blank has led to a 500 gold lead just about.
It has, and we're looking at that gold lead sticking around. There's been no first blood yet, but Apperman has got a lot of damage on this. Kelly's using his auto range and those good Q procs to hit a fair amount of damage onto this Vladimir.
Yeah, and while Apperman had that a bit of a duff game too in their first game in terms of the 1v1, his other 2 games that he has played, he has been getting solo kills. He's been getting some very good individual plays. As we see Blank using the pressure that Apperman has garnered versus Arya in that short 1v1 there, not normally the lane opponents that they're used to fighting. Blank goes in and steals out the blue buff, just continuing his level and camp lead.
Yeah, and so as we're kind of cresting towards the 10-minute mark now, that was good. Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of a CS lead for this Misfortune, as I talked about earlier. It's a Coalfield Warhammer to a BF sword buy, so a little bit more CDA for Gango, but a lot more damage. Wow, that's a lot of damage. Attempted kill there from Yutori Miyashi, who you tried to use the Make It Rain to slow down people in that bullet time, but not quite together. looking for a back anyway,
Yeah,
so
I
not
think
too
he's,
much
so
lost.
effectively the reason he does that, it looks a bit odd on your screens, obviously. I think the reason he did that was he was looking for a recall anyway. There's no dragon up, and he's not looking to walk up towards the Herald, so he won't be using that big team fight ultimate for any important objective. It doesn't really lose his team any pressure across the map, and it also stops CGA from freezing in their wave in front of the tower. Yoshi's Wardhop is cancelled.
And he's level 6 to level 5 here. That was not the best queue. We've seen a couple of those from Yoshi when he has been invaded, where like he burned his flash early in an invade from Shinzao,
Yeah,
remember?
And it's worth noting, guys, that so CGA had a lot of roster changes in this offseason. Yoshi was the substitute jungler last split and last year for CGA. And, this guy is coming in to replace Hachimecha. This guy, wasn't the starting jungler last year, and he has got a lot to prove because, he was in the back seat for so much of last year, and he's been having a tough time today as a jungler.
Yes, he has, but we'll see whether he can continue to improve as things go on. The early games have not been fantastic, but he's managed to find some good stuff later on in the games. But of course, that was a very swift Rift Herald take and summon in this top side, just trying to snowball Apperman even further than he already is on this Kale.
Yeah, so this will be a single man Herald hit. Nap going in for a decent trade here. Oh, just shunts him back in stab, but he hasn't taken any aggro yet.
Using the Celestial Blessing there just to keep himself out of trouble. Speed up and heal, no problem, but it is an ultimate burn from Nap, but it stops further pressure on this tower.
I think he was hoping that Apperman would take tower aggro. Didn't actually end up that way. Ends up blowing the ultimate there. It does chunk out Apperman pretty well, but he does have 2 biscuits in inventory. Has some lifesteal as well. So this Kale's still relatively happy.
A little bit skirmish.
Oh, it does get hit there, though.
It does, and that's another little track there from the Haymaker. True damage spot. Apperman does have mana, does have, of course, his W, the Celestial Blessing, to keep himself topped up, but he's got to be very careful. Knockdown's there. Needs to make sure he hits those cues to keep Nap slowed. See how that goes. He's still got, of course, his range available.
Divine Judgment? Something like
Divine Judgment's the R.
Yeah, that's the R, okay.
Starfire Spellblade is the...
You know what? Like I said, I don't know.
Do you know the key?
Nope, that's what I was trying to think.
Radiant Blast.
Radiant Blast, right? Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be something like Light Sword.
Well, okay, we're seeing an Abyssal Voyage there, but not to any significant game. NT and Utomi actually fast enough to get behind that play.
Yeah, the Moby's active from NT. Nautilus does have pretty low base move speed. When you have the Moby's active, it doesn't really matter. And then obviously Misfortune has the Strut available too. Gets out of the way of that. Abyssal Voyage, nothing really gained there, but a nice attempt nonetheless.
Yep, strutting her stuff out of that problem was Misfortune, and Arya has been keeping pretty even here with this LeBlanc in the mid lane, scaling very happily without any real pressure yet. That's a good ethereal chain, though, that will land and keep him away from the wave, but as I've said, hasn't really led to much of a CS late, if any at all.
Yeah, he does have the blue buff now, which means he can take more continual trades. But actually, as long as Vladimir has access to the wave, we were talking about this a little bit in one of the previous games when we were talking about, well, this Avaris had picked up a lifesteal item in the Bilgewater Cutlass, so that means that they have sustain, right? Well, not really if you don't have access to the wave. But we see here with the Vladimir that because the wave is continually been putting it in.
Go in here as well. We're going in, and this is a level 6 to level 8. There's the ultimate, and bye-bye Yoshi. Executed for first blood. Great play by Blank.
Yeah, and he uses now a 2-level lead onto Yoshi, kicks him away, but too little too late. The execute comes in, like you were saying, from the Rek'Sai, running the Halo Blades, has some fantastic damage here. There's a trade maybe coming in the mid lane.
That's a good hook. He's landed as well. He's got a depth charge. There's a heal coming through for Arya, but is it going to be enough? No, it's dead. Pyrian picks up Vladimir. Not safe any longer.
Oh, and one thing which is very important to note here is that when someone goes untargetable, the likes of Fizzpole, the likes of Vladimir's Pool, and the like of this, if you are still attached to the chain, it will stun you at the end of it. And what we see there is that the Pool, even though it's activated, the ethereal chains had already landed, and LeBlanc comes through clutch there.
I am unfortunately very aware of that interaction. I am an Elise player.
Yeah,
More than once have I tried to repel out of an ethereal chain and not. Is the short answer of that.
Yeah, so now that leads to a 12 CS lead just about for Pyrian.
Level 9 to level 6 in the jungle now.
Yeah.
This Rek'Sai is well and truly online, is going to be going towards this Mountain Drake, and Yoshi is on life support on this Lee Sin. The jungle XP changes mean if you do get behind, you tend to stay behind. And yet the Facebreaker does miss, and Apperman continues to push into this tower. Just a plate and a half remaining on that tower.
Yeah, and while Yoshi is behind in this game and has been kind of thrown around a bit by his jungle opponent, he did come back and become pretty useful in the last game that they played. This isn't the end of the game as it might have been last year when junglers fell so far behind. And Blank has had a very good early game so far. It's one thing which I noted at the start of the game is that Blank is really good at his pathing to at least keep his own level up. I think Boogie, similarly on V3 Esports, has done pretty well at that through the games we've seen from him. But Blank is really, like we said, putting Yoshi a bit to the grindstone there and just making him very accountable in this early game.
He's the same level as support. And, actually being forced off this dragon here as well. Blank just battle warding Yoshi a bit here.
Yeah.
And that's really problematic. They're losing control of their jungle. And if Yoshi can't find ways to get himself in, and that is Define Ascension, the level 11 hit now for Apperman, getting stronger and stronger on an uncontested
looks like
KO.
they're looking again for the mid lane play here.
See, can they land
the chain?
Land the chain.
Again.
He's got a pull. That's not enough. There's a teleport down, though. And that means that Blank is now here. He's going to have to think about getting out. That's a lot of damage from the Hemo play.
Ooh, nice.
Wow. Good turnaround by Arya there to force things out. And that actually might mean there's a free Drake start for CGA at the cost of the teleport granted, but a nice force away from Blank.
I think that
On Blank, rather.
So I think that because this is a Mountain Drake and there aren't any particular... I mean, there are some tanky members on the side of CGA, but there's a lot of damage coming through in the mid and late game, as we mentioned, right the way through Champion Select from Sengoku Gaming. I think they're okay to give up this Mountain Drake for the boon of the Kale getting that tower in the top lane. Looks like it's taking the top side of the jungle as well. So Apperman in a pretty happy place here. They might even be able to get a blue buff steal as well at the end of this.
Yeah, it was first tower traded for second Drake. And that was always kind of one of those concerns, right? You tend to trade Rift Herald for Drakes early on. You tend to trade a gold lead for Drakes early on. But this is quite a significant gold lead. It's about 3, maybe 4k here. That's a lot of gold
just
over to Sengoku Gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see the blue buff handed over to Pyrion. Like we were saying, LeBlanc does want to take a couple of these mana-efficient trades against Vladimir, and it kind of didn't work out that way in the early game. Yoshi, once again, not being allowed his own jungle. Blank tunneling onto him.
Again onto Flash of NT, just disappears, or makes Yoshi disappear, but there's now a 3v2 as Blank and NT are now in the middle of the jungle. It'll probably be Grendel's life, or NT's life rather, traded for the jungle in the end.
Yeah, that's kind of sad, but at least there are no big objectives up. I think because CGA were already on the top side of the map, it didn't mean that Herald was going to go down. It's a kill over to the Vladimir, which does suck. It's their first kill of the game onto this team fighting pick of the Vladimir. But it is also, like we said, Yoshi being once again being put into the death realm, been into that waiting room just ready to respawn. And now there is like a 40 CS lead onto Blank on this Rex.
Indeed, he is 3 levels up. He has a 14, is that, yeah, heading towards maybe 50 shortly. And more than that, we've got a Kale who has completed the Gunblade and sport Stinger and the same back as when she went there. So she's getting towards being very much online. Has a 30 CS lead on this set. Things looking good for Sengoku Gaming as we sort of enter this mid-game.
Yeah, and it looks like Sengoku, even though they lost that kill onto NC, still able to take this Herald. It's the second one of the game. Wonder where they'll have to put it next time. This time, probably put it into mid just to confirm that tower going down, because it is quite hard to displace Vladimir from these turrets. Hook just missing.
Arya, knowing his distance is what I would call that.
Yeah,
especially
sure.
after his last few games have actually been very exceptional. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there.
I mean, if we had a word cloud of phrases that we use really often, mine would probably involve limit testing right there and big and bold, because there's been a lot of that in the LJL in the first day or two. And also, I just really like the phrase. Don't know whether you've noticed that. But that was testing the limits of Nautilus's hitbox. Normally, that's a bad thing to do, as the Herald is summoned in the mid lane.
Second Herald summoned now, and we're looking to see whether we can get a charge on. They're going to try and get on it. Everyone's here. There's an Abyssal Voyage into the mid lane, but that means Grendel's kind of left alone. But Nap has found his way onto Pyrion here, but the Distort gets him out to safety. Nice stop, but it means that the tower did go down. The Jig get a charge and a second tower taken in the bot lane as well. That's all 3 outer towers, and the 1-3-1 commences. Pyrion is back to the top lane, and this Apperman KO is starting to really come online.
Yeah, the beneficiary of this is the Kale, who has basically got through laning phase untouched. Had to blow the didn't even have to blow the flash at any point.
Just a teleport from Pyrion.
Just a teleport from Pyrion, the one time and that one expected dive. And now with all the outer turrets down, Sengoku might just be able to play the 1-3-1 game, get vision down for their split pushes, collect all these waves, and then hopefully transition into a fun late game state for themselves.
Seeing another CS lead from Misfortune into a Senna. This is a few times I've seen this now. And we're getting a game pause anyway.
Do you know why that is? I think it's because there are 2 Caulfield's Warhammers picked up for the Senna.
Oh no.
Just left base with 2 of those Warhammers.
Oh.
So
that's frustrating.
So Lexi, what do you think of this game so far? Are you enjoying it so far?
Well, I'm enjoying it because I also called who I expected to win this so far. So I mean, I feel relieved, like a pat on my back. I started calling it. I'm like, I think Sengoku are gonna win this, and then they're performing so well. I mean, they've got all of the turrets so far.
Yeah.
I don't even think Crest even have turrets
No,
yet.
it's 3 turrets to none so far. I think that all those turrets are still up. And yeah, I think you should be feeling pretty happy with Sengoku's performance so far. But then the question mark for me is that they had this lead earlier in the day. They almost threw that. They also had a good composition in that first game. And we have seen various famous Kales of various names throw away team fights without pressing their R button. We saw that with Dasher earlier in the LGL on day
That's
one.
who I was thinking.
Yeah, and there's always that question mark over there of actually, one lapse in brain function in your perception of a team fight, and you just don't you miss something important, and the ultimate doesn't go down, and you lose your carry.
Dasher is of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, just for those who aren't quite.
And that was against Crest as well.
That was actually. That's kind of a wild ride that's coming full circle here.
And indeed, when it's not just that, though, we're starting to see Pyrian get some agency on this. LeBlanc has picked up a couple items and is split off to the side. And we were saying, you, Nightmare, have a bit of a, I was going to say issue, that's probably a fair way of putting it, with LJL teams running a 1-3-1 comp. And this is where these guys are splitting off to. They're sending the LeBlanc off to one side, they're sending the KO down to the other. What are your thoughts on whether this is going to be a successful play style for these guys?
So I was saying this in the break because we do trade a couple of thoughts just on the meta and other things as we're between games because we talk a lot about League of Legends. I think that the way the LJL plays 1-3-1 is more about mechanical outplay than macro outplay.
It seems like we've gone back in.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us once again, Mass One. But yeah, so what this means to me is that actually it's predicated on the fact that you need to be mechanically better than your opponent. And there's a lot of CC coming in from CGA in terms of the kickback and the showstopper from Set as well. A lot of point and click stuff that Kale really can't deal much with. And actually the one thing about the Kale for me, I'm just going to continue this a bit longer because it's a little bit of a quiet state in this game so far, is that when you look at Kale and you look at this nope button of the ultimate, it only affects one person. And when you're against a Senna and a Vladimir, and this Vladimir is actually at a very strong state themselves, right? Has the double pen items, has the 30% CDR going on 40% CDR from runes and items, means that there's so much AoE damage coming out from this Vladimir that Kale cannot save everyone.
No, she can't. But of course, the 1-3-1, the threat is of course being ganged up on a side lane, but this Lee Sin is anemic at best. And that could sort of lower that threat in the side lane. So that's something to be grateful for Sengoku Gaming.
Still has CC. Still has the ultimate button.
Of course.
So, I mean...
but of course, that does mean, like, it wasn't so long ago when we saw Appamen 2v1 in a side lane. Like, if he's got that kind of skill on a KO, you certainly can with those items, having completed the Nash's Tooth now.
But we are seeing 4 people head up towards this top lane. We might see an Abyssal Voyage come in behind Appamen, and we are seeing it.
He throws the Celestial Blessing down to escape, and that's that. Runs away pretty swiftly, and that means that LeBlanc is free to keep pushing on the side lane, and Yutori Miyoshi on this Misfortune is going to try and shove in towards this mid tier 2 as well. Has put the strut active and is starting to throw some damage down, but CGA are going to try and trade for this top tower.
Yeah, so it's going to be a Cloud Drake going down to the side of Sengoku, and it looks like it's going to be the mid tower going down in favor of Sengoku too. So there has been a bit of an objective trade. The gold being shared amongst the members of CGA there, in terms of the local gold given out from the tower kill. And this means that Sengoku do get a little bit of that ultimate cooldown, which is useful from the Kale, obviously, and the Nautilus. As we were saying, Nautilus being pretty much the only engage option from the side of Sengoku. And, I have been quite critical of a couple of the drafts when teams just haven't been able to draft any engage. I was having a chat about it with one of the other people that covers some of the LJL, a guy called Acclaimed. He talks a little bit of analysis, and he says, maybe you don't need to draft engage if your plan isn't to fight. And if you're playing a 1-3-1 style, that is actually a relative... that's a relevant point, right? Because if you're not looking to immediately force them in a 5v5, then why do you need the engage in the first place?
And if actually what you're looking to do is trade onto people who are coming to dive onto you, I can see that being a good start as well. Because, of course, that Kale Ultimate is a pretty good deny of someone trying to come and blow one of your team members up.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if CGA botch a dive onto Sengoku, then the turnaround of the bullet time and obviously Kale with her massive waves of fury can do so much AoE damage across the team of CGA, much in the way that Vladimir can do his own AoE damage onto Sengoku as well. But just with the amount of squishy members on Sengoku, I do feel like eventually Arya can, as he did on his Zoe in day 1, be able to take over this game somewhat.
Yeah, but we're seeing bounties being built up for the side of Sengoku Gaming slowly but surely just because of farm and pressure that they've been accruing.
Yeah, it's a 6k gold lead. That is something to talk about.
And it means that actually it's the 6k gold lead and no vision control really to speak of for CGA, who are having to deal with this ridiculous Rek'Sai and a Nautilus wandering into their jungle and stealing away all control with impunity.
Yeah, there's still a 2-level lead onto Blank on this. Rek'Sai has the Black Cleaver and the Warrior Enchanted. And, you know, as we've been saying before, Black Cleaver really helps out your other AD teammates. Only the Misfortune this time, but if you do manage to get some decent Black Cleaver stacks onto the team, then that bullet time will just do that extra amount of damage. Obviously, in the past metas, we've seen Misfortune go towards lethality and the Black Cleaver because it does do so much work on that ultimate.
Now, of course, Kayle is very much an AP threat, but she does do a lot of auto attacking, so maybe there's a little bit of like baseline utility there.
Yeah, the Gunblade does obviously give you some adaptive stats, but the grand majority of damage will always be AP. Obviously, your E passive.
Oh, Yoshi's been caught by the depth charges, had to flash water away, but Period is here, gonna go forward. He dodges the ethereal chain, but that's just 1Q and he nearly takes half his HP.
Yeah, he was already pretty low there, and actually that's a good trade from Arion to Baphomet.
It is, but he's got the Divine Judgment, gonna survive here, and he survives
no.
the Hemoplague! No, he doesn't!
He times it wrong, and
Apperman
he just dies to the pop of the Hemoplague, and Arya taking down the split pusher in Apperman in the side lane. That is bad news bears for the side of Sengoku.
It is, and that was unexpected. Looking like he's going to go towards, I think, a Banshee's Veil there now.
I think so. I think there is a decent call for that as well. It stops the first spell being cast onto the Kayle, gives her a little bit more margin for error there as in the side lanes.
I want to see how that happened. I do see a Morellonomicon there in the Vladimir's inventory, and of course versus the Kayle, who does want to kind of throw some healing, and as Grendel gets caught by an ethereal chain, is this going to be the end of it? I don't know. Just going to keep getting chased down. That's a fair amount of damage, but Senna's there with the piercing shadow.
As there's a 2-man onto the Baron here right now.
It's a 3-man with the teleport in from, I want to say, Kayle, who's just respawned, and the Baron's already very low. There's a lot of damage available. As we said, this Rek'Sai has been super fair. We're seeing everybody coming, but Yoshi is now being caught, has no flash, had to use the Dragon's Rage already, but Nap is here, onto Apperman. That's a good bullet time, but Arya is kept out of the way. That's a lot of haymaker damage.
Blanks out the pit.
This is gone, and he's stolen the Baron as well as Arya. This is another one of those games from this mid laner. He can do no wrong.
Oh no, so Blank gets punted out of the pit. So much damage from Nap onto the collected members in the Baron pit there. It's a Baron steal, and this game is now falling apart. How can you side lane against Baron minions as the team is Sengoku?
What on earth happened there? I think Blank had to tunnel out, I think is what happened.
I think there was a flash. I can't remember if he was punted out or if he chose to flash out.
I think he chose to flash out because the Dragon's Rage was down and Set had already used his showstopper to get into the pit in the first place.
Yeah, there was a good bullet time to try. Oh, Period caught there with the root, but it does look. Oh, is there a Hemoplague coming through?
There is a Hemoplague. They're going to keep diving. Is this going to be a try at the end of the game? They're continuing to push. CGA doing so much damage. Arya is so strong at this moment.
And there's a tower down in the mid lane now. At least they don't get the inhibitor, but this is just warning lights all over the Sengoku team comp. There's a Vladimir with the Baron buff at level 15 with so many items. We're going to see this replay now, and I need to figure out what happens here. So, Yoshi being tied up a little bit by NC on the side here, but it is the two massive solo laners CGA coming in here. So, the bullet time comes across. The showstopper goes into the pit there, and I think Blank smites. He doesn't smite early. He has to flash out to stop being killed by CGA's team there. And then after the jungler isn't in the pit, there was the empowered transfusion from Vladimir, which takes down the Baron itself.
We're seeing a Cloud Drake start here for Sengoku Gaming, at least some consolation prize, but we're seeing a TP top from Set, looking to start pushing a bit.
A bit, yeah.
But that is now double Cloud Drake, and there's a lot of ultimates between a LeBlanc who wants to be throwing her Mimic out as much as possible, a Kayle, a Rek'Sai, a Nautilus, and Misfortune, all who have ultimates that are worth having up pretty regularly, so that's kind of something, but they've still got to survive another minute of this Baron power up, which has already earned CGA about 3,500 gold.
Yeah, it has. They are still at a gold deficit. I think that Sengoku do have a strong team, and obviously this Kayle is at 2 items, moving towards a third as well. Not going towards the Rageblade, going towards the Banshee's Veil, as we talked about briefly as well. But it does look like CJ are looking to siege down this inhibitor, but NT there just to threaten the hook, force them away.
Yeah, this Baron power buff is doing well to earn some more map pressure. Vladimir takes down that top tier 2. And finally, Yoshi gets to go into his opponent's jungle. Trade back some of that early humiliation he was suffering at the hands of Blank.
Yeah, and he's managed to catch up in 1 level as well. Now only the 1 level down to Blank. And this is just another mid-game throw from Sengoku, I have to think. You cannot just... You can't skip the necessary steps to set up for a Baron. They were very close to winning that, don't get me wrong. But the damage from this Vladimir is so fantastically huge in this fight when you have all of the CDR and building towards even stuff like Needlessly Large Rod.
I mean, I liked the thought NT
Nap?
Imperium went towards taking out the Yoshi in that fight, but that means
so
I apologize. Nap comes in and
Oh,
destroys Pyrian. As I was trying to talk about a Baron take, NT solo had to burn the stopwatch, is taken out for a double kill by Set, and Gango is chasing down Yutori Yoshi, and he's gone as well, and now it's a 5v2. I think this is going to be game. CGA have minions and a long death timers to end this game here. Arya is a monster. Look at this Vladimir skating forward, and he's gonna just blow up Gango. He's gonna blow up the Kale on the fountain. Once again, a trap pick, not able to survive in these latter game team fights, and that is GG for CGA, who take down Sengoku Gaming.
And they go 2-0 in this day 2 of the LJL Spring 2020 split. And what a fantastic turnaround from the boys in blue here on the blue side. They just do a great job at seizing the opportunity around that Baron, turn the game on a knife's edge, and they take the win. So, Lexi, how are you feeling about that Sengoku prediction now, huh?
Well, I mean, it was great until Baron got stolen. Like, I mean, we're gonna be clipping that, posting on our Instagram, social media, and all that jazz. I mean, gotta promote.
Put ourselves out there.
Absolutely, but man, Sengoku looks so good for so long, and then, well, I mean, the Crest mid laner can't.
Arya is
Formula
so
Luna,
good.
like you just both games, I would argue, has actually probably won it for Crest.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like,
and actually, he just like the fact was that he managed to get that solo kill onto the Kale into a great AoE team fight in the Baron pit and steal the Baron on top of it.
Even in the base, and even in the base as well, right? Just showing against that, you could like Kale doesn't have many tools to deal with the Vladimirs. We saw like you have enough sustain and disengage tools to win out in the side lane, because obviously if Kale is wailing on you, then you know it's a bad matchup for the Vladimir. But you have your pool, you have your ultimate, you have your Qs to heal up as well, and Kale cannot auto attack while she's invulnerable as well.
That's
So
true.
in that 1v1, very hard for Kale until you get 3-4 items and have the Rage Blade available to immediately burst him to really win that 1v1.
Yeah.
An incredible series of games. I mean, obviously, as you said earlier, Crest Gaming Act now going 2-0 in this week of the LJL. We will have to see the next 4 group of players play later. Before I go into the schedule and round up this stream, I would like to hand it over to both of you, Initialize and Nymera, if there's any closing thoughts from you guys.
I'm so excited to see more of Arya. This guy is so damn good.
Yep.
Like, that game was dead to rights. It was a 1-3-1 that was looking so smooth. Yoshi was made into a non-factor by Blank's very good Rek'Sai pathing. But there was this Baron fight where NT tried to kick out Yoshi, and the Set and Arya on this Vladimir found their way in, and it was so good. So any more of Arya is good news for me.
Yeah, and on the other side, Sengoku, you have to clean up your mid-game. You can't play around objectives the way you've been doing. I think you've been skipping steps in terms of your pressure. I feel like before that Baron play, you were in a good state in the game, and it just all turned away from there. I think that we've seen some great games today, none of them going particularly long like we saw in day 1. I think that it's been some great games to cast, some great games to watch, and I'm really enjoying the level of play that we're seeing.
It's been truly an impressive series of games that we've just happened to watch. The next 4 games we will be covering very soon. It won't be for today, but potentially over the next few days we will be streaming it, as well as uploading it, all of them, over on our YouTube channel for you to catch up whenever you want. The games we will be covering sooner rather than later will be DFM versus Axis.
Oh, it's going to be an interesting one.
Rascal Jester versus DFM.
Oh no.
That'll be fun.
That should be good.
We got the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming versus Rascal Jester. And then to end it out, we have Axis versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawk Gaming. I'm trying to look at it just from
It's such a huge name.
and I'm just like, and I'm trying to call all of it, and I'm like, I'm gonna miss something here if I don't go a little bit slower. But they are the 4 games that we will be covering very soon. A quick note for anyone watching live right now. We will be streaming approximately probably like 3 to 3 hours later from now. We will be obviously posting on social media, but we'll be doing our podcast to round up, covering mostly only week 1, because obviously our podcast will be probably covering a little bit of this week, but obviously only covering relevant stuff, keeping everybody into the loop of things, teams to watch out for, quick notes about that, and all of that jazz. But so far, it's been an amazing 4 games. Congratulations to Crest for going 2-0. It's been an amazing series so far, and I'm so excited to watching more of this. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Johnny.